Is anyone here interested in cameras?
No.
Or just interested in images?
That's why we're here.
Yeah, I know. So we're all interested in cameras, and there are all kinds of cameras out there. And I thought, well, we sort of know. Well, I don't know. You know, I'm using my Canon 5D Mark III. You know, when I do serious work, you know, when I think, oh, like the other day I had to take a passport picture for my passport. So I thought, well, I better use my good camera, you know. But it didn't matter. It didn't really matter. I should have used something with a fuzzy lens. But you know, but then there are times when we use other cameras, you know, and there are lots of other cameras out there. And I have to admit, and you may have caught me doing this, I've walked into Best Buy and I've looked around at their little camera thing, and you know how you can pick up the cameras, but they're like on a cord. So okay, so it's kind of fun, you know. So I pick up the cameras, and I pick up some of those little cameras, and I go, wow, this is really cool. You know, it's small. It could fit in my pocket. You know, well, of course the alarm would go off. And it seems to focus quickly, and I can handle it, you know, and I wonder what it's like to really take pictures with. Well, a long time ago, that was kind of this camera. Look at this. This is like the screen. You know, I don't know how we looked at that thing. So this thing doesn't work anymore. It's a Canon digital ELPH. You know, so a long time ago that was this, but it took pretty crummy pictures. The pictures were so bad that one day the camera just said, you know what, I'm not even going to pretend to take pictures. I'm just going to quit working, and you know, you won't have to worry about it. So the camera quit. But now those little cameras are pretty good. Yeah.
What's the megapixel on that?
I think it's 4. 4 megapixels. Four megapixels, yeah. Believe it or not, I have older digital cameras than this. Yeah. But things have gotten a lot better. Let's see. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun if we all brought in our secret cameras and, you know, kind of shared that, and also sort of talked about where the state of the art in smaller cameras is, and I'm going to show you a little presentation on that. But I guess first I'll show you. Well, I don't know. You want to see like the latest thing that's out there? I got a little preview on here. It's like it's not it just hasn't hit the market yet. It's the new Leica.
Oh my God.
Isn't that amazing?
Is that just a camera or a
It's like a cell phone camera to me.
It's like a picture of a camera.
Oh, Terry.
Darn. You guys are too good. You guys are too good. Shucks. Yeah, it's my iPhone. But I know. I'm afraid someone's going to hit me over the head and steal this thing. But you know, in a way, it is like a little Leica. You know, and that's one of the things I like about it, because it's small. You know, Leicas are small. I think it's an 8 megapixel camera now. So it's a pretty good camera. You know, it doesn't do bad. And I actually have some pictures that I made with this camera at Art Fair. And you know, so I'm not afraid to use these pictures. You know, at a reasonable size. It does panoramic images very easily. It does HDR images pretty easily, you know. I mean, it does a lot of things that I want a real camera to do. But the other thing about this is that I always have it with me, you know. It's always in my pocket. And I don't remember who it was who said that the best camera is the one that you have with you, you know. And so most of the time for me, you know, this is the one. Because my Canon 5D is not with me all the time. You know, I only bring it out, you know, at those special times when I intend to make photographs, not for moments that I happen to come across unexpectedly. So this is, you know, this is pretty nice. And I have to say, it's a much better camera than it is a phone, you know? And why, I don't even know why they called it the iPhone. They should have called it the iCamera, and then say, oh, and by the way, you could maybe make a phone call, you know, if you're lucky, you know? So this is, you know, so I'm coming clean. I take pictures with my iPhone, you know, and I do it quite often. And I take all kinds of pictures, and I make photographs of things with my iPhone that I wouldn't make with my bigger camera, because it's more wieldy. It's with me when I need it to be there. I play with it more than I play with my big camera. You know, I probably took 5 pictures of my dog with my real camera, but every day I'm taking pictures of my dog with my phone. You know, I stick it down on the ground, here, have a picture. So this idea about playing with the camera, you know, is something that I think is important. And so I do that with my phone. So recently there have been, and I should turn it off. Recently, there have been some very interesting cameras that have come on the market that are sized between the iPhone and a big SLR. And so, what I thought I would do is give you an overview of some of those cameras, and then I brought something else to show you. I got a couple other ideas, and then I thought it'd be nice if we could share the cameras that we're all using, and maybe talk about what you like and what you wish you had and things like that. So how does that sound? So let's see if I'm hooked up to the projector. Oh, if you can figure out the light switches in this room.
My other switch, right?
I think it's back by the door, Joel.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Oh, well, oh, wow.
You want some light?
Is there one in the back you can turn on? I'm getting a little nervous.
Yeah, that works.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I felt something like nibbling on my leg. Okay, so, oh, I'm sorry. I want to give you one more anecdote. I was out with my family. We were out west and we were hiking. This was last year, and so we're hiking, and you know, I usually have the camera with me, and my family understands that I need to make photographs, you know, and they're behind me 100% when it comes to that. So okay, we've done this, but you know, I have a tripod and you know the remote and the menus and all that stuff, and it takes a while, as your loved ones know. Okay, it takes a while to make a photograph. So after 3 days of hiking and you know hauling my stuff, the next day my son said to me, he goes, "Dad, today can we just do it without a camera?" I'm like, what the heck, you know? This is what I do. This is why we're here. I said, well, why? And he goes, it just takes too long, and you're hauling all this stuff, and it's just not as much fun as when you don't have a camera. And I thought to myself, so I said, not on your life. No, I didn't. I said, of course, yeah, I won't take a camera, but I took a little camera. And I thought to myself, all right, here's what I need. It's finally gotten to the point where it's bothering my family. So what I need is something that will help me work faster, something that's smaller, something that's less cumbersome to haul around. And so that was some impetus behind this research that I've been doing as well. So, oh yeah. So here are the two cameras. You can get the iPhone in 3 flavors: black, gold, or silver. They all have good cameras in them. And what's that one? Oh yeah. And so it's like the iPhone or the digital SLR. Now it's kind of interesting. In other parts of the world, the digital SLR sales have fallen off pretty significantly. And people are going for smaller cameras, they're going for mirrorless cameras, they're going for cameras that do electronically what a DSLR does optically. And so, okay, fine. But in the US, Canon and Nikon, who are the main camera sellers, they have not embraced the mirrorless camera technology the way other manufacturers have. And it's kind of interesting because I think he's the CEO of Olympus. He was even complaining about that. He said, we wish that Canon and Nikon would adopt more of the mirrorless technology or the Micro Four Thirds technology. He says, because until they do, they won't really become popular formats because everyone looks to them as being the leaders. Other people are thinking, if Canon and Nikon don't get with it, they're going to be like Kodak, you know, and really be left behind. And so anyway, in this country, it seems to be like we have a lot of digital SLRs, and then we have a lot of people taking pictures with phones and of course with iPads, right? Have you seen people walking around? Yeah, it's like having an instant 8x10 camera, you know? I love the viewfinder on the iPad, you know, it's perfect. But I think it has, how many is that a 4 megapixel camera, 5?
It's bigger now with the Air.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean,
You can do HDR.
you can do HDR with it, yeah. You can't print it very big though.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have that.
So anyway, but what's really fallen out of favor and kind of died is this end of the market, you know, the pocket camera. Because everyone has a phone, and, you know, my phone has twice as many pixels as this thing ever had. And, you know, and the quality of images from our phones is pretty good. Pretty good for most purposes. A lot of people aren't printing their pictures anymore. So they're just viewing them, you know, electronically. I had someone come to me last week with a Nikon D7000, and he said, he asked me if he should get a better camera. And I got all excited because I love it when people buy cameras. And so I said, well, how do you use your photographs? Do you know, what size do you print them? Do you ever print them? And no, I never print my pictures. I just send them electronically. So really that D7000 was kind of overkill for that purpose. Because there are other cameras that he could have. I mean, certainly that camera will serve that purpose forever, but there are other cameras that he could have which would reduce the size and the weight and the complexity and so forth. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. So why would you not use your digital SLR? Well, okay, obviously you're not going to carry it all the time, right? How many of you brought it tonight? Yeah. Oh, good, okay. All right. Good, all right, yeah. Oh, no, you didn't bring it tonight, no, okay. All right. Yeah, so if something great were to happen, you know, well, you wouldn't have your digital SLR with you. All right. This one was a real eye-opener for me. A different camera may be more discreet. All right, so how many of you work for a company that you can't tell us about? Yeah. Okay. Yes. I was saying I know you do. So it might be more discreet. So it's not like you're gonna spy. Well, maybe you will. So you know, but even if you're not spying on someone, if you walk into Briarwood Mall with a Canon 5D Mark III, you know those guards, they're going to tackle you and throw you out. You know, they don't even want you to be around with a camera like that because they think you're doing industrial espionage. But what they don't realize is that people are doing industrial espionage, you know, with iPhones or, you know, other kinds of cameras. So it can be helpful to have a camera that doesn't really look like a serious camera. Another example would be going to a concert or you know, some venue like that,
Sporting event?
Sporting events, right? And you know, and I was at one. I went to see the Galaxy, the soccer team in L.A. and they had like a little device, a measuring device. And if your lens was physically longer than the measuring device, you couldn't bring it in. And if it was shorter than the measuring device, it was okay. You know, they had no idea what the capabilities of the lens were. It's just, no, if it's longer than this, you know. And yeah. So, and of course, you know, we got busted trying to bring a lens like that in, so we had to go put it in the car. But, you know, so I thought, well, gee, that's kind of interesting. So having a physically smaller lens with telephoto capabilities could allow you to take pictures in places like that. Another one is interchangeable lens cameras. I've seen signs that say interchangeable lens cameras are not allowed because they have to deal with the fact that they can't ban phones, or at least they haven't, So they haven't banned phones. So how do they ban the kind of cameras, that will make better images than a phone? So I've seen places ban interchangeable lens cameras. So if you have something that doesn't have interchangeable lenses, but still is a nice camera, well, okay, maybe you can bring that in. I'm thinking about these. Have you seen these you have them, the super zoom cameras, like. I love it. Yeah, so that's not an interchangeable lens camera, and you could go in and make better.
850.
Yeah. So you can go in, you can have the worst seats in the house and make great photos of what's happening. So, so that's kind of interesting. And the other thing is, I have a Sony NEX7. This is my Sony camera. And what I really like about my Sony camera is that it doesn't look like a camera. And it doesn't look like, if I took this thing off, it would. Yeah, okay. I don't know. To me, it doesn't look like a camera. And it certainly doesn't look like a serious camera. And I noticed something right away when I started using this camera. And that is that people pay attention to me when I'm photographing with my Canon 5D. They pay attention to me in all kinds of ways that I never even thought about. You know, I thought maybe it was my personality or my looks or, you know, something that people would come talk. No, they pay attention to me because of the camera. And in the same situation, if I'm using this camera, people ignore me. It's really remarkable. So that gives me more options, you know? More options for photographing people, more options for doing my work without being interrupted or without being noticed. It just presents more options to me. So I kind of like that. When I walk around with this camera, I'm never afraid that someone's going to say, oh, you can't take pictures in here, you know, the way they do with my Canon. Because, you know, well, it doesn't look like much of a camera. Maybe I look like a tourist.
Has that been true in museums?
Yes.
I mean, museums have policies about
Yeah.
photography
we've been
and flash
stopped from
photography.
taking photos in museums.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
Because we weren't supposed to take photos and we did anyway.
yeah. I mean, there are a couple issues in museums. One is with the flash, the other is with copyright. You know, but yeah, I don't know. I can't really say that I've tried to photograph in museums with this camera. But I would, you know, if they have a sign that says no photo, you know, I would respect that, I guess,
We do most of
more than I would respect it at the mall.
Terry, that's the format that gives you a bigger lens for a smaller size, so to speak? I mean, in other words, to get the same
This is,
magnification on your Canon, your lens would have to be much bigger?
no, this is APS-C, which
Oh,
is
that's
like
APS-C.
Canon Rebels.
Okay.
Most digital SLRs have this size sensor in it. So there's about a 50, a 1.5
Okay,
times
okay,
multiplication
it's
factor.
not like the 6.
No.
Okay.
Well, I don't, well,
I thought the 6
I
was,
don't know.
is a 4/3, no? Or
No,
is
it's
it?
not 4/3.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking of.
So it's more discreet. Oh, here's another one, on the airplane. Oh my God. I've been busted on the airplane more times with my Canon, because the flight attendant will come around and just tell me, you know, whatever altitude we're at, I don't know, you know, just stop, you know, stop. But I've never had it happen with that. I've never had it happen with my phone. You know, you can take pictures all you want. Yeah. So, okay, you may want to travel light. You know, it's another reason why you want to ditch your SLR. So this little bag is ridiculous. I don't know how much it weighs, but it doesn't weigh. It probably weighs about as much as my 5D Mark III with one lens on it, and maybe a spare battery. It really doesn't weigh much, okay? And what I have in this bag is I brought everything I have, everything I own and have borrowed for my Sony camera. So I have the 18 to 55 lens. I have a Zeiss 21 millimeter, a Zeiss 35 millimeter, a 51.8, 16 millimeter 2.8, 55 to 250. That's ridiculous. And spare battery, memory cards, remote control, you know, etc. All in this little bag. You know, so think about traveling, and I travel a lot. You know, it would make a big difference if I could just take a bag like that instead of my backpack or my roller bag and, you know, all the other associated stuff, and still come back with the image quality that I'm after and with the capabilities that I'm looking for when I'm doing serious work. And then another, yeah, well, you know, it's good to have a spare. Has anyone ever had their camera like just go out when they've been somewhere? You know, that's a drag. And so, yeah, you've had your camera go out?
6 pictures into a caving expedition.
Yeah.
I ran out of battery.
Oh, oh, yeah.
Mine got stolen.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Left
never,
in a taxi,
oh,
and in Paris, after I'd spent the whole day taking wonderful pictures of every sign I saw. It was
mhm.
wonderful. Even
Yeah.
went down to the police station.
So, so I have this Canon Rebel that I bought, and it's really lightweight. It has an 18-55 lens on it. If I take the lens off,
Was that the Canon Rebel?
it's a Canon Rebel. Yeah, it's a great camera.
Got the new 18 to 270 lens, it's really wonderful.
Yeah, there you go, and that's the only lens you need on there, you know? And if I take the lens off, then I have a spare body that I can use on my L lenses, you know? And so, and Canon Rebels can be quite inexpensive. You know, they're a lot less expensive than the mirrorless cameras. So even thinking about a smaller, lighter version of a DSLR might be something that could help reduce weight. What this doesn't do is, like, I can't put it in my pocket, you know, or it's hard to hide under my coat or something like that. But still, you know, it's, you know, you might think, oh, I got this fancy camera, why would I ever want a Rebel? But, you know, I think there are good reasons for having a camera like that. Weight, yeah, weight, absolutely, you know. All right. So, you know, other kinds of cameras we can have, well, we can have a phone camera, pocket camera, which, now there still are some pocket cameras that are kind of nice. The mirrorless cameras, which means that instead of having an optical viewing system, it has an electronic viewing system. So they've removed the mirror, and that's allowed them to make the cameras smaller. Or one of the super zoom cameras, you know, that goes from, I don't even know what they go from,
I got one that goes from 18 to 850.
18 to 850?
18 to 850, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's a Canon Sure Shot SX50. So it's a
Uh-huh.
lot of
Right.
megapixels, good sensor, very little noise, light.
Lightweight
I got a
and,
Rebel too, but I hardly use it.
and not very expensive. I mean, relatively speaking.
Yeah, about $300-400.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Judy?
My other camera, which is Fuji, goes from super macro to 720.
Yeah, this one does super
Amazing.
macro too.
1200? Oh,
Yeah.
1200?
1200.
No, 700.
And this goes to
1200.
30 times. I don't know what 30 times is equivalent to.
Yeah, well, yeah, it would have to be 30 times what, you know, but that's certainly a super zoom camera that has built in the capabilities of applying all those different focal lengths to your images. So that's pretty amazing. Some of the advantages of working with the smaller camera, obviously size and weight, raw files. So if you're narrowing down the category, you know, what kind of small camera do I want? You'll certainly be able to adjust the files further if they record raw files. They have a lot of automatic features. You know, I think every Sony camera has this panorama thing where you just press the button, you know, like the phone, and it takes a panorama. They're starting to come out with better autofocus. And because the smaller cameras often have smaller sensors, with the smaller sensor, the smaller the image area is in the camera, the longer depth of field you end up getting with your lenses. So for example, for work where you want things in focus, foreground to background, landscape work, or, you know, who knows, long depth of field is kind of built into a camera that has a sensor smaller than APS-C, or certainly smaller than full frame. Some of the disadvantages are shorter battery life, because everything's smaller, so the batteries are smaller, so you don't get as many photos. They might have fussy controls. Well, I think Sony is well known for having some fussy controls on their camera, but usually on my 5D, I know where the buttons are. I know how to operate the menu. I have a lot of familiarity with it, but I wouldn't call it fussy. But I've picked up small cameras, and especially my Sony camera, it's a little fussy. You know, I forget which menu, it's got all these knobs, they're not conventional knobs. Some manufacturers trying to reinvent the camera. So they can be a little fussy. You might have limited lens selection. Sony's come out with some beautiful new cameras, but they hardly have any lenses for them. You know, the lenses are still under development, so you might run into that limitation. You might have limited features, especially when trying to photograph sports or motion or movement. And it's more difficult to achieve short depth of field when the camera has a smaller sensor. So I'm thinking about the Micro Four Thirds format. You know, if you want short depth of field, you need a larger aperture. You also need to get closer to the subject. Inherently, you'll get more depth of field than you would with a camera with a larger, with a larger sensor.
The other thing too, Terry, is some of the smaller cameras don't trigger as fast. They're a little more delayed in the shutter unless it's maybe one of the top
Shutter.
ones.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Yeah. So, you know, or they don't turn on as quickly. You have to, you know, you push the button. Oh, you have to wait for a second or two, you know, before the camera becomes active. Yeah. And it's harder to capture motion because it doesn't trigger as quickly. Yeah. Thank you.
Same thing, may not be as good for low light photography with the small sensors.
Well, small sensors are typically noisier than larger sensors, and so yeah. So if you're doing a lot of low light photography, that's a factor, you know. But the manufacturers are building in ways to try to overcome those limitations,
A lot
which
of
is
the small ones shoot raw now too, so you can, a lot of the small ones, even at least the Canon, shoot raw as well.
yes,
You can shoot raw and JPEG at the same time.
yeah. So some of the to me some of the interesting formats. And some of the cameras right now are Micro Four Thirds. Now, recently I was in Death Valley, California, doing a workshop, and half of the people there had the Olympus, what's it called, EM1.
Yeah,
Oh, it uses every letter of the alphabet, I think, in the
Right.
name of the camera. But it's the OMD camera, and the cameras are pretty interesting. They're Marilyn let me use her camera for part of the time, and I really enjoyed it. It's a small camera, easy to operate, certainly easy to carry around. Do you have it there in the? Look at that! See, she snuck it in. They didn't even catch her. How many of you have this camera? The OMD EM1? Nobody? Oh.
They've come out with a smaller one called the 10, which is less complicated than this one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay, I'll buy this one. And then sell me this one and you can get...
No.
So, you know, it's a beautiful little camera. It feels like it's very well made. It, you know, it handles well. It looks very conventional in terms of where the knobs and controls are. The viewfinder is, to my eye, very pleasant to use. It's bright, it's big, you can see the images well, and the image quality is excellent. So what I did was I had my Sony camera, which is an
APS.
No, it's not. It's an APS-C sensor. So it's 70% the size of full frame, okay? So it's close to full frame size. So I had that camera, and then this camera, which is only 25% the size of a full frame sensor. So I had both of them with me, and I was taking the same image with the two cameras, and I printed them out. So afterwards, when I finish with this, you might want to go up and take a look at those images. I tried, you know, it wasn't very scientific. I was just picking one up and then picking the other one up and trying to make the same photograph. But, you know, looking at them in terms of sharpness, in terms of resolution, those kinds of things, I think I was frankly surprised at how similar the images were from a camera with a very small sensor compared to a camera with a significantly larger sensor.
Is that interchangeable lens or is it a,
Yes.
okay.
It's an interchangeable lens. There are 1 million lenses that fit this camera. Panasonic and Olympus both make lenses that fit the camera. And the camera body has image stabilization. So it doesn't matter what lens you put on there, you're gonna have vibration reduction with any lens. Now, I'm not trying to sell Sony cameras, or what is this, Olympus. I'm not trying to sell any cameras. But I find it really interesting, and I think this camera has become very popular in just the couple of months that it's been on the market.
What is it called, an OM what?
Oh, OMG, I think E, and this one is the M1. They have the M5, which was the first.
We
This
just
one,
bought
they
the
just came out with the
Panasonic
M10.
GX7.
Oh, okay.
It's comparable to the Olympus,
EMI or
so
just
We can
EM10?
show that later.
Great, okay,
OMD,
great. How do you like it so far?
M1.
Oh, just
Yes,
M1.
no.
There might
it's
be
just
only
the
in there
second
somewhere,
day.
but I'm not
Oh,
sure.
okay.
And it's an M1, is that the most advanced?
Yeah, so they came out with an M10.
So you can,
So-
Micro Four Thirds, you can use all kinds of lenses, they make adapters, it's like, oh my God, it's like, have fun, whatever lens you want. But the sensor is only 25% the size of full frame, which is pretty small. And in the past, that's meant small sensor, lower resolution, not as good image quality, more noise, less ability to work in low light. But I think Olympus has addressed a lot of those concerns with this camera. The next category is APS-C, which is the size sensor that's in the Canon Rebels and the Nikon 3000, 5000 series. Really, it's any digital SLR that's not full frame. So Fuji has some very interesting cameras that use this size sensor, and the same with the Sony NEX cameras. So they're using the sensor out of a digital SLR. It's the most popular size for ICL cameras. ICL stands. Oh, very good, interchangeable lens. Yeah, interchangeable lens cameras. Yeah. There are people who call some of these. They call them evil cameras. Evil cameras, which stands for electronic viewfinder interchangeable lens. But I couldn't think of your camera as evil, An APS-C is 70% the size of full frame, and then there are full frame smaller cameras. Sony just came out with 2 of them. This one is full frame at 24 megapixels. This one is full frame at 36 megapixels, and the image quality has been rated and described as being equal to that of the Nikon D800. It's I hate to say the best sensor in this format out there, but it's an amazing sensor from test reports and from user reviews. So that's pretty interesting. One problem though is that they don't have a lot of lenses available, so they came out with this technology. I actually handled the cameras back in October, and they were wonderful to hold in the hand, but they wouldn't let me take them very far. And they also have full frame cameras have the highest resolution, largest file size, and lowest noise, so that's where, if you're after, the highest quality you can possibly get from these cameras, this is probably where you want to land. But of course, there are issues associated with high resolution too, which is then you have to start paying particular attention to sharpness, to your camera technique, to high shutter speeds, to working on a tripod, and so forth. Okay?
How do these 3 categories compare in terms of price? Can you,
Yeah, so the Micro Four Thirds you can find at a variety of price points depending upon depending upon what they have. But I would say, $800 to $1,500 for a camera body would be Micro Four Thirds. There are less expensive ones, but I'm not sure that you'd be happy with fewer features that they have. The APS-C, Fuji has a new one coming out any day, or maybe it did come out, I don't know, the XT one. So that's also about a 15, $1,200 to $1,500 camera, something like that. The Sony NEX cameras are, $700 to $1,200. And then the full frame ones, the 24 megapixel one, I think is about 1,600 without a lens, 2,000 with a lens. And the 36 megapixel, I think, is 2,400 without a lens. So then, and to get the best out of it, you want to get the best lenses, and the best lenses are another $1,000 or so each. So you're very soon getting up to $4,000 if you have a camera and a couple of lenses. So
Is that mirrorless or?
yes, so what I'm describing there are all mirrorless cameras, all mirrorless cameras.
Terry, where do you put the super zooms in, like the Canon Sure Shot?
Well, let me show you, yeah. So the super zooms, this is a little diagram that shows the comparative sensor sizes, all right? So the largest rectangle here is for medium format digital cameras, which, I don't have. But usually, we start at like full frame, so the Canon 5D or the Nikon D800, D600. And then the next size down for a sensor is APS-C, which is down here. Okay, so most of the digital SLRs have a sensor this size compared to full frame. And then 4/3 is down here. So this red rectangle is the size of the 4/3 sensor compared to full frame. The super zooms and some of the other pocket cameras and cameras with fixed lenses that are not interchangeable, those all come in around here. Okay, so they're significant. The sensors are significantly smaller, ultimately limiting how big you can make a print, limiting the amount of noise you're able to inhibit. But having said that, the technology keeps getting better, and they figure out ways to work around those limitations. So, oh boy, some interesting cameras here. Of course, yeah, I'm not sure you can actually see any of these cameras in the state of Michigan or anywhere else, but that's okay. So Fuji has some really interesting cameras. Fuji, well, I'll show you the camera. The Olympus, Olympus is doing amazing things with these, with the 4/3 format in their cameras. Sony is also doing some very interesting things with the NEX camera, the A7s, and the RX series, which really are more the size, they're more this size with a little lens, fixed lens. You can buy a $2,800 fixed lens Sony camera that you can slide into your pocket and take anywhere, and it makes beautiful photographs. And then some other ones, that I think you may have used are in the Nikon series. Those Nikon sort of brick cameras. They use smaller sensors than micro 4/3, and also the Canon G series. Do you remember the G9? Remember everyone had one of those, and the G10. I still have a G10. And yeah, and then I think it might even be the G16 now. I don't know, but G15. And then they came out with one called the G1X, which is basically the same camera but with a larger sensor, to improve the image quality even more. So these cameras have fixed lenses. They're designed to have a lot of controls that we would want to have on a camera, a lot of adjustability, and and I think they're worth looking at as well. Lenses that collapse into the camera body. Okay, so let's take a quick look. So this is the Sony A7 without a lens, and it's a beautiful, beautifully, I think, designed and manufactured body. It's very simple. Has a little well, it looks like a prism up here, but it's really the electronic viewfinder. And you can see, you know, how large the sensor is in that camera. That's a full-frame sensor. This particular one is 24 megapixel. The other model is 36. I recently read that there are some people, are experiencing an issue, a little bit of light leak around the lens mount, but you know they'll fix that.
Is that a separate lens then, or is it built in?
So you have to buy a lens for the camera.
Okay.
You know, so this is just a picture of the camera body, and then you can buy you know, some lenses for the camera. This one comes, you can get it with a kit lens. It's I think 24 to 70 for about $2,000.
They're expensive.
How does it
Yeah.
compare size-wise?
Sorry.
How does it compare size-wise, physically?
The physical size of the Sony camera is about the same size as Marilyn's camera that I was showing you a little while ago. They're not very big, yeah. So it's a little heavier than my NEX. So it's a little bigger than this camera. You know, so it has a little prism, you know, or it has that little bump on top for the viewfinder. So it's physically a little bigger than this. It's a little heavier than this one, but it's nothing like, you know, it's not near this size, you know, and this is a small SLR.
Now, what about the optical viewfinder? Are you addressing that, or, because the little tiny cameras, you know, the con about it is you have to look through but there's no optical viewfinder on the real small ones, like my pocket one does not have one. I had to get used
But
to
mine
that.
does, I bought one.
That's correct.
So that's an issue that I wondered if you could mention.
This one doesn't have the optical viewfinder.
Right.
But no, that is an issue. If you're working outdoors in bright light,
And does that have it?
oh yes, it does. Yeah, it has a beautiful optical viewfinder. Yeah, it's very bright, it's very large, yeah.
You can sometimes buy shades
I have one.
that will adapt to
Yeah.
different ones. And that's
Oh,
what
yeah, I got a really nice.
I have to use it with this all the time, shooting in the bright sunlight, and I have a shade
Right.
that clips right on here.
Yeah, and I have one of those too, but I wish I didn't have to use
Or
it.
just take the dark cloth from your view camera that you don't use anymore. and hold that over your head.
I have done that. Put your coat over your head. And that's why brim hat really does help.
Mhm. If you want to see a beautiful viewfinder, take a look through Marilyn's camera. The viewfinder is bright, it's large, it's clear, and you know, I mean, a lot of people have said, "Oh, I couldn't use a camera that didn't have an optical viewfinder." Well, you know, just look through some of the new cameras. They're amazing, and in some ways, my opinion, they're even better than optical viewfinders.
But what I'm saying is, I need, how are you defining being able to look through the camera rather than looking at the screen?
Yeah. So I'm
Are
sorry.
there
Yeah.
two, because I'm
Those are
calling
two different
optical
things.
viewfinder, and I think you're calling optical and electronic different versions of being able to look with your eye through the camera.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And the clarification that you want to make, I think rightly so, is that there's a difference between looking at an electronic image here
Yes.
compared to being able to put your eye up to a little hole and
Yes.
block out all the light and look at it through here. Yeah.
So
No,
what are you calling that, a viewfinder? I mean,
Viewfinder is generic.
yeah,
It's either optical, where you're looking through a lens,
all right.
or it's electronic, and you're looking at a tiny little screen.
Oh,
But they're
okay.
both viewfinders.
So the screen would be the electronic, and the optical would be your eyeball.
maybe an
Yeah.
eyepiece. I don't know what we call it. Well, we're gonna have to. Well, I'll have to do set up.
This one is
something.
electronic,
Yeah.
essentially,
It's electronic
but you look at it through the,
through the eyepiece.
Right.
So there is an eyepiece.
Yeah, they're both
And it
viewfinders.
switches back
as
and
opposed
forth.
to
View,
looking at a screen.
viewfinder means,
Okay,
viewfinder means eyepiece.
Oh, thank you. Okay,
Okay.
good.
The
Yeah.
minute you say viewfinder, your eye is right on it.
Right,
And then
okay.
you don't have
All
light
right.
Someone
problems.
should go on
Thank you.
Wikipedia right now and sort
Yeah,
this out.
yeah.
Just define it.
Thank you.
Okay, Jerry, there's your challenge.
Okay, so here's my last slide before we break out the goods.
She clarified it.
This is Fuji. Fuji has been producing some really interesting cameras. They have a number of rangefinder style cameras. Of course, it doesn't have a rangefinder, it's not a Leica. But Fuji is a little bit unconventional. A lot of their lenses have aperture rings on them. The sensor that they use is not like the sensors in our other cameras. They have a different way of recording the light. And then they have picture styles in their cameras that are designed to replicate film. Probably Fuji. And so that's kind of interesting. So you can modify the color of the images based on the characteristics of the film that they made. And so you can get a rangefinder style camera, which might be a little smaller, more compact, or you can get this XT1 camera, which is the one that's just about to hit the market, that has 17,000 dials on it. So if you've ever been frustrated by the menu in your digital camera, like, oh, where is that control? I know it's in here somewhere. This camera has like a knob for everything, and you can set up the camera without turning it on, because you can just move the dials into the correct position. So that's pretty intriguing. And
Does the E2 have interchangeable lenses?
yes, the E,
Wow,
yeah,
that's
they make one called the E2. This one actually isn't the E2.
Oh,
I think this is the X100, but it, it's similar, and yeah, it has interchangeable lenses as well. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. That might be
Funny, Terry,
something.
I saw one of their point and shoots, just a little one in the store.
Uh-huh.
The names of the films were like Sensia, Velvia, stuff, the color changes in the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Check out that film.
That's pretty interesting. That's what Kodak would be doing if they were still around. So, okay, so that's the end of my slides. And so, oh, Joel's gonna figure out the lights, right? Or are you going to the restroom? I don't know. Oh, there you go.
He's
Okay.
going to have a smoke.
So, yes.
The other thing you didn't mention in the little point and shoots, I imagine most people know about that, but if you kayak or you ski or anything, the little Olympus Tufts, they've got all kinds of settings, and I've got one of the little blue ones, and really big screen on the back. You can get a hood man or something for it, but you can take them 10 feet underwater. So when I've been kayaking and see something interesting, I just put the camera down in the water and take a picture of it.
wow.
And it's fun to have if you're out on a beach where there's sand and all that kind of stuff, you don't want to risk a good camera. They will tolerate just about anything. I guess they'll tolerate being dropped too, though I've never tried it.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
they really are good
What's-
for
Which
weather.
camera is that?
It's an Olympus Tough. Most of them are blue. I think they're about 8 megapixels, something like that.
Uh-huh.
But they give you you got about 6 or 8 aperture sightings each side of center. And they got different color choices and all kinds of features in them. They had a panoramic in them and a bunch of stuff like that. I forgot to bring it in from the car.
Yeah.
But they're very handy to have something like that when you're out just traveling and you're out in the woods or kayaking or something.
Yeah, if you're going camping or something, or, having a little
Boating.
underwater camera,
Boating.
yeah, I mean, it's
Snow.
great, yeah. Uh-huh.
It's confusing that, it's like every time you turn around, there's a new camera coming out. So how do you decide when and what to get, or, I don't have unlimited money.
Uh-huh.
So Joel has, right. No, he doesn't either.
You got cozy up to Joel and give it to Ryan.
Any thoughts on that, or where cameras are going? Is there a better time to buy? They're always gonna keep changing, right? Because they wanna keep selling.
Yes,
Everybody
Yes.
has to go.
yes. And you all, let me think. Wait, let me look. Yeah, you all remember the old days where when you bought a camera, that was it, Like, you didn't have to get, like, what did Nikon ever do with their film cameras that made them better? Like, the image quality never got better. you know, if you bought a new camera. It might have other features or
They
might
came out with new
you know,
films.
yeah, but a new camera, you know, a new film camera would not get you better image quality in most cases. Going to a bigger camera would likely get you better image quality, but it was more about usability. You know, what features did it have, how was it laid out, and so forth.
One approach to that is that you change your camera when you become dissatisfied with the product, with the pictures that you're taking. Okay?
So, but here's my suggestion. I would, when you think you're sort of at the end of, you know, of that camera, or you got your eye on something, or, you know, you've seen something, start telling Joel what a great camera you have. And then, you know, and just like keep talking about the virtues of this camera, you know, how great it is, and say, you know what, if you want the camera, I'll go get something different. Yeah.
Have you heard of a place in California, I don't know the name of it, where you can borrow, you can rent cameras? Because I have a cousin who went, and people on her trip called this place and rented it for a week because she wanted to try it out.
I've done that with lenses, borrow lenses is one.
Okay.
Camera rental, borrow lenses, yeah, there are a number of places online where you can borrow
WCC.
equipment. Yeah, what
They may not have all the camera models for rental that these cameras, for example. I don't
You
know.
can try it out.
I haven't rented one in a long time, but that's my guess, is that they may not have the latest and greatest for rent.
After
Well, they
my Nikon is 5 and one doesn't do underwater stuff. The cost of underwater cameras is so competitive that it's really worth just renting for a week when you're diving.
Yeah,
And it's really CNC, and some of them have some decent ones now.
but Joan, to answer your question a little further, in my opinion, the technology is going smaller, you know, and that we're all going to be using, we're going to be seeing a lot more of these. These are going to be becoming more popular because, you know, I think how many of you would like to have a camera that's smaller and lighter that has the same image quality as your bigger camera?
Smaller than that, though.
You know? Yeah.
This is my size. I don't.
Sure.
I mean, I'm talking pocket. I was hoping somebody'd have some ideas about
You
pocket.
need bigger
Panasonic.
So,
Comex is another good one.
So you know, the technology is there for the manufacturers to do it. And again, what they're doing with the Micro Four Thirds image quality, I think is pretty remarkable. So I think that's where it's going.
Okay. What is
You have to
Micro
consider
Four Thirds.
status, because when you have a big camera, you get more respect.
Well, it's true.
Really, I mean, they see you with a little camera, and they think, oh, if you come out with your fancy big camera, it's like, oh, that guy's a professional.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Boy,
you're,
I-
Leave it to Bigfoot.
You know, I'm even hearing the Rebel, you know.
Yeah,
So you can get
Barry
a
had, they
10,
had
you
the
can get
Rebel,
a
they had the
10,
other cameras.
a 10 by 11, 10 by 11 camera, and then you can put your digital camera inside the bellows.
There's a commercial.
I have a question for you, Terry.
Is that right?
Yes, and they get more respect with the bigger camera, but they took the little camera, stuck it inside the big body, and then took a picture, and the people thought, well, the picture with the big camera was better than the little one, but it was actually the little camera that took the
same
picture.
thing. Oh, that's fun. George?
I had a question for you. I have an iPhone, and I saw one of my relatives had one, and he had this app called Hipstamatic.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, what a pile of crap that is. But then I looked at it, and I saw how much fun it was, and it's $250 or $299. You can buy a film. It is a lot of fun. And what's fun about it, it's kind of what you said about the Fuji camera, but I'm just wondering, have you thought about how the fact that there are millions of iPhones out there, and if people can buy apps for $5, what it's going to do to the perception of photography?
Especially
And
this
what
new
kind
40
of
mil-
classes
40
you're going to be
megapixel
teaching 10 years from now.
Especially the new 40 megapixel.
10 years from now, I may not be teaching.
But you know, I mean, just, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Still we are,
Because I think it's evolving right out from under us.
Yeah, like this.
Well-
Photography that
although
we
everybody
do.
thinks they're photographers.
In a lot of ways, you're absolutely correct, that the capabilities that this has, for one, are pretty good. And for two, fit the needs of a lot of uses, you know? So if I'm doing photographs for a website, you know, or for a blog, and that's where they go, and that's the only place they go, this is fine. You know, I don't need better quality than this. So yeah, for a lot of people, and for many purposes, this kind of photography could be all that's needed. But for prints, it's a little different story. For complicated lighting situations, it's a little different story. But yeah, this has become a problem for, well, not just this, but also this has also become a problem for a lot of photographers, commercial photographers, because people are making the kinds of images with these cameras that they used to get paid for. So it's a little more of a struggle commercially as well. Yeah, I was the year before, I think it was the year before last, I was interviewed at Art Fair, you know, so yeah, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, something like that. I was interviewed at Art Fair for the Lucy Ann Lance radio show, you know, so I thought, oh wow, it's going to be a big production. They're gonna like bring the wagon in, and you know, have like that van with all the people in the back, you know, working the controls and everything. So this woman walks up to me when I'm at Art Fair, you know, and woke me up, and she said, well, I'm here to do the interview for the, you know, Lucy Ann Lance show, and I'm like, great, you know, where are your people? You know, I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, they're going to show up. Well, no one showed up, and I said, well, how? She goes, just a minute, let me connect to the station. So she pulls out her phone, you know, and dials in. She goes, okay, I got Terry here. Yeah, we're ready to go. And then she's like, okay, talk to my phone, you know. So okay, so I'm, you know, I think I'm live on the radio, you know,
Yeah,
and
FaceTime.
all through the iPhone, you know, and you know, connected and all that stuff. So you know, we're on the radio. She's, you know, Lucy's doing the interview and everything like that. So it's over, and then she goes, all right, well now I need to make some photographs for the website. I'm like, all right, good. Here come the lights and the camera and everything, you know. So she does them with her, you know. She just takes the phone, snap, 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 and that's it, you know. And I'm like, wow, you know, how that really changes things, you know, when you can do a radio interview and make the photographs, and you know, with one person and an iPhone. That's really remarkable. That was 2 years ago. So what other cameras are you all using?
You didn't
Yes.
say much about the video capability of all of these cameras.
Oh, yeah,
That can be
that's
very
right,
important
that's
too.
important.
It is important, yeah, and that's because I really don't know much about the video capability. So, yeah, so.
I would suggest high def. I mean, you know, and most of them are giving that. And you're looking at either 720 or 1080 lines from the top to the bottom, whereas, you know, 5-6 years ago, all we had was normal television, which was really only 480. This is kind of strange. This is high def. This is an 8 megapixel camera. It takes beautiful 1080i, and it has a still mode. So it's the opposite of what you were just talking about. So I can grab still pictures while I'm shooting if I'm running in the dual mode.
Well, and there are new video cameras. This is all I know about video. So there's some new video cameras, the 4K cameras. Have you heard of those? And they're capable. Somehow you're able to pull stills out of the video that have excellent quality and that are raw files. You know, so that could change things significantly when we're pulling our still images out of video cameras rather than using still cameras to create them, you know. And I think we'll probably see more of that too.
Yeah. The 4K is a doubling of the present day HD.
Oh, okay.
So in other words, HD is, I said 1080i, well it's 1920 by 1080i.
I see.
And if you double that, really quad it,
Yeah.
because when you
Yeah.
double, you really cube it.
Yeah, square.
Square it, I'm sorry. And so you now have 4,000 by 4,000, which really puts you in the range, actually a little bit higher, of the resolution of 35 millimeter film, which was about 3,000 by 2,000, whatever I forget what they called them.
DPI.
The grain, the grain in the film. Yeah, well, except DPI is per inch, this is
So,
per frame.
so I got an idea. How about if we, what do you think about this? If we like quickly, like go around the room and you can stand up or you can hold it up and just show us what your other camera is. What do you think? Dick, you want to start?
Okay. I'm sorry.
This is another camera I use. This is the older version of Terry's Leica. It's a Leica M9. And some of the features, it's small, it's lightweight, it's a mirrorless camera. It doesn't have an electronic viewfinder, it has a regular viewfinder with a rangefinder. It was the first full format mirrorless camera, and the smallest full format camera at the time. I don't know if it still is, but so it's a serious camera. There are tons of lenses available for it. Any M format lens that Leica has ever made will slap on it. It has a CCD sensor, not a CMOS sensor, which gives it certain characteristics. It has a pleasing tonal range, but it has a higher bass noise. So the highest effective ISO is about 1250. It has lots of dials, so if you want to change anything, you don't have to go to menus, you just turn dials. Part of the reason I got this was a long time ago I used a Leica 3C, which was really a camera from the mid-50s. It was actually introduced in about 1940. And I loved it because it was so lightweight. I mean, it was something you didn't even notice you had. So I had this idea that I want to get a digital rangefinder based on that experience. And I kept waiting for Leica to produce one, and waiting and waiting. It looked like they were going to go out of business before they ever got around to it. But anyway, this was the camera that I always wanted for that reason. It's smaller and lighter than my DSLR. DSLR is much more flexible. I can put a really long telephoto lens on the DSLR. DSLR has much high ISO. There are lots of in-camera editing features in the DSLR that this doesn't have. This has really the very minimum automation. And my take on that is sort of that, we're not about taking automatic pictures here, I don't think. So then you're talking really manual. And this camera is much easier to use as a manual than my DSLR. I don't have to go into menus, I don't have to tinker around with things. I don't forget what it's set at because I can just look at it. If I want to change the aperture, I just turn the knob. So this is my my other camera. Oh, I also use an iPhone, and about probably, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 other cameras fairly regularly.
So what's your DSLR? What camera do you use?
It's a Nikon D90, and I'll probably upgrade to a D800. But it's almost too easy to use. I mean, I take many more pictures than I really should with it. It has a really nice, smooth shutter release. It has a high continuous shooting rate, much higher than this. This thing, you have to, think about what you're doing, and I think that's why I like it. It just forces you to be considerate.
Good. Who else has that? Yeah.
Well, I brought a camera that has a story. And it's an interesting story.
Oh, my goodness.
It may look kind of clunky, but this box is called the blimp.
Yeah, you can often get it for
Just go to
less.
Canon's site and type in refurb.
What do you think
Yeah.
about getting refurbished? Is that a good idea or not?
Yes.
Well, I think it depends, but I know professional photographers who only buy the refurbished cameras from Canon because they're less expensive and they usually have the same warranty and, you know, and oftentimes they haven't been refurbished, they've just been opened and closed or
We
something.
bought a Canon 40D refurbished from Canon
Mhm,
about 3 years ago,
mhm.
and it's still just fine.
I bought a
Has a
number
year's
of
warranty.
refurbished items.
Yeah, our 60Ds are refurbished.
Yeah, and lenses and things.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so,
And they were brand new.
mhm.
Do the refurbished come with the same warranty
Yes.
as
A
the
year's
new?
warranty, yeah.
Other cameras?
No.
I want to put in the word for the droids. You're talking iPhones.
Yeah, me too on that.
Mel, show your new
Come on,
camera.
show your new camera,
Oh.
Mel.
I've only had it 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just learning to use it, but this is the competitor to the Olympus. And the difference is this is the eyepiece, and it flips up. So it has so you don't have that bump here. And it's a very good eyepiece, and you can control the diopter here.
Is it
So-
like a rangefinder camera then, or is it?
No,
actually
because it's,
Through the lens.
The screen tilts, by the way.
Yeah, the
It's a
screen-
Panasonic
Yeah.
GX7.
Panasonic, what is that?
GX7.
yeah, and,
The Olympus one tilts also.
So it's an electronic viewfinder.
yeah, it's electronic viewfinder. The only, I read the reviews, the only downside is that it's not waterproof or sandproof.
Yes.
One of the interesting things about that camera is it has a silent shutter.
Yes.
That's
and it
one of the
is-
models I'm looking
It
at.
is silent. The disadvantage of the silent shutter, I was using it the other
Yeah.
day.
Did you get blur?
No,
No.
I didn't realize I was taking as many. Because I didn't
You're
hear.
used to hearing the little clip.
The other interesting thing about that camera is it's Wi-Fi capable, so you can take your iPad or your cell phone and be on the other side of the room and be taking pictures with it off of your
Your
iPad or
iPhone,
cell.
yeah,
a
your-
cell
or your
phone.
iPad.
So what was the model again?
What is the, it's GX7.
Okay. All right, did you have one, Bill?
Well, I have actually the Olympus.
Can you stand up, please?
Okay, here. Yeah, this was the Olympus. I started, I kind of got essential.
You gotta hold it above his head or I'll never get it.
Or come up front.
Or come up, well, you don't have to hold it that high if you don't want to, but that's fine.
Okay.
Now it's too low. Okay, good, great.
Okay. Anyway. Okay. Okay, that's it. So, I kind of, as you see, I have some essential trimmer, and I'd had a Panasonic Super Zoom 8X and then 18X, which I used, and I decided this mirror DSLRs were still too big, and this is a little big, but I like to carry it around on trips, so I could put this under a coat or something and not be too bad. But I got this particular one because at the time, I got it a year ago Christmas, and it was, supposedly had the fastest shutter speed, so I tried to minimize my, and had pretty good sensitivity, so that's what I used. But, you know, it doesn't have a built-in flash, you have a separate one that you have to put on here, so I seldom use it for flash.
What's the sensitivity? I mean, how does it do in low light?
It's much better than the Panasonic that I had before, the Super Zoom. But it's, they say it can go 3200. 64, but I don't use it there. And I'm not really that knowledgeable on all these things, so I use it for point and shoot. I should have a tripod, but that's too complicated and too much time to haul around. But, and it's got a pretty complicated, it's got a nice screen on the back, but it's a little bit more complicated than I like to use on fast precisions. I can't.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I think it's a nice camera, and I got this separate zoom on it.
Mm-hmm.
This is about 11. Oops. You want to turn that for me? I'm shaking.
Okay, turn it out.
Yeah. So that goes 11x. So it kind of scares people.
Yeah.
Point that at them. Talk about being discreet.
Yeah.
So, and let's see, anything else? It's got a movie mode.
Yeah.
Movie clips does that. And I found it has a little trouble with automatic focus during the movie. It seems to go in and out, but I haven't used it enough to try to overcome it.
Thanks, Bill.
Got one over there.
I'm Mel Annis's brother, and I just wanted to show you this because nobody else brought one. It's Fuji X100S, and it is a magnificent camera. It is a fixed lens, and there's a lot of discussion about the viewfinder. This actually, it's this little button here, which looks like the self-timer on old cameras, is actually switches the viewfinder from optical to electronic. So you have both.
This is switch on this also.
Good, okay.
Hey, I want to introduce, is this Byron?
Yes.
Byron Annis, Mel's brother, is an excellent photographer, and he's been to Cuba for several times, and he is coming to the Ann Arbor Camera Club in next week. And I want to let you know who this person is, because we're so lucky to have him. He's a retired neurosurgeon who came into living up in Wisconsin, and he's come down to visit, over and down to Michigan. And he's just, did you just get back from Cuba?
Well, it's my third time, yeah.
How many?
Third.
This is the third time, and so you were just there, what?
In January.
In January. So this is kind of special. I didn't realize you were here. So it's a free announcement to everybody. He's invited to the Ann Arbor Camera Club March 18th.
Okay, there's some other people out there with cameras, I think.
This is a little Luminex, I forgot, it's 7, I believe, LX7. And the reason I got it basically was because it has RAW capability. I wanted a small camera that I could shoot RAW, because I have one that would just do JPEGs, and my other camera does shoot RAW. So this is just a nice little camera that I use to take pictures, and I can still manipulate them like I do my big camera. This is about $325, so it wasn't really too bad of a price on it. It's got a nice little zoom.
It's a Lumix what?
LX7.
And how far does it zoom? What's the optical depth on the zoom?
I'm not even, it's been a while since I even looked at it. I can't really tell. It's like I think a 24 to 80, something like that.
Very good.
Okay, behind Jim, Nancy in the back. Please be quiet.
I have a Sony or the Sony Nex 6. So this, I'm really cheating because this is not my other camera. This is my new camera. My other camera is the little Panasonic Lumix, which is definitely doesn't have the capabilities of that one at all. But this is, it takes RAW, photos in RAW, and it has a lot, almost all the capabilities of a DSLR, and So it has a lot of things for me to learn on it. I'm getting it, so far I've only used it a couple of times to take a couple of pictures, and I'm not used to this electronic viewfinder yet, but I think that I can accommodate it by the end of April, I can tell you, I can answer your questions about it. I'm taking it on 2 trips, and I'll be using it. I wanted something lightweight, and I have fairly small hands, so the controls, I have really liked the controls on it so far. They're very easy for me to reach and use.
Is that an interchangeable one?
It is, yes.
You bought it with 2 lenses?
I bought the kit lenses, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Nancy. Judy?
Yeah, like I said, I actually have, this is my other camera, and then I have my iPhone, which is my other camera. I have a Nikon 300.
I know you have Nikon 800.
800, no, that's yours. Anyway,
D600. I know her very well. I just don't know what camera she.
we haven't been using it for a while. I bring this along on photo shoots, not just kind of playing around. This is because of what I said earlier. It goes from super macro, which is you can get inside of flowers, to 720 I know you say 1200, but 720 with 13x zoom, 30x. So is that what 1200 means? So it does what my other, I don't want to change lenses, so my other camera has an 18 to 2. This has, goes a lot farther, so it gives me a lot that my other camera doesn't have.
What camera is it?
This is a Fuji FinePix. This one's HS10, we also have an HS30. I know, but I was in a hurry.
Does it make raw files?
Yes, yes.
How, is it noisy?
She's very quiet. I never
Just
hear
turn it
her.
on.
You can turn it off, but you can make it silent.
No, the pictures, you
Oh,
get a lot of noise.
Oh.
Tried to be funny, it didn't work.
He put a card in it just before we got here, because I didn't have a card in it. It says card error, and I thought maybe somebody can help me, we finished with doing the camera stuff, and somebody could help me figure out what card error means.
Sure. We'll bring it over to Chili's. We'll play with it at Chili's if not.
Yeah, I just had one of those.
Okay, does anybody else have a camera?
I don't have one, but it's very much like Judy's, so I wanted to mention, because it's a super zoom too. Canon has a whole series of these PowerShot SX cameras, and they're 50 and up, shoot RAW as well as JPEG. And they go from super macro, like Judy was talking about, to about, well, mine goes 850. Some of them go further than
What
that.
kind of a cost are we looking at?
You're talking about maybe $300 to $400.
300, 400? Judy, how much was yours, do you know?
This is the real old one. It was like 390. She got a new one, which is 50X. That's the one that works. And that costs $400.
Okay, so they're in the,
Same
okay.
range.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wanted to mention this. What's the megapixels on that, Judy? What megapixel is it?
Hossein knows this stuff better than I do.
I don't know nothing.
Hossein, do you know the megapixels?
I just told you, I don't know it.
You do have the.
I know
think
mine's
it's
about
with
12.
I think it's
you want to look it
18.
up, but
I'm
the
not
new
sure.
one is more
Mine's about
interesting.
12.
The new one is it 16?
This is not my second camera, third or fourth, or even first. This is the camera to be ashamed of. It costs $6,000 without the lens. It's very, very heavy. For me, reaching 80 is just absolutely nonsense. But I had an Eagle, I used to have an Eagle like this. I have to have it. Don't buy it. I have another camera, which is 32 megapixel, smaller than this. This is D4. And the only good thing about it is that I tell people how strong I am. It takes 11 pictures a second. It has ISO up to 204,000 and some more. You could take pictures almost in the dark. And I can't see anything in the dark. I don't know why I want to take pictures in the dark. So it has all kinds of controls. If you don't have a note with you, or you have a good memory, which I don't have, you can find out what you do with it and when you do with it. And if you want to find out, let's see if I could let you hear how many. Oh, excuse me, I know.
Old photographer's excuse.
Doesn't even work.
I take the lens cap off.
No, it doesn't work.
Did you turn it
That's probably
on?
why I didn't. Terry, you know how to work it.
So is it a link?
Oh.
There we go.
Oh my God, you just shot somebody.
That's all it is for.
This,
Shoot and show off. It's not worth anything. I have this for over 2 years. I have another one, which costs 1/3 the price of this. That's all I use. This I leave home. But I take Judy with me, yeah.
I would be happy to carry that anytime you want me to.
You can, you probably, well, when we go to your place, and you want to announce where you would?
Yeah. I sent out an email to, I had mentioned it before, over the 4th of July, I'd like to have, a while back, there was a suggestion to have a get-together at the cabin, have up north, but at the time it was under construction, so we couldn't do it. So now it's still under a little construction, but it's mostly finished. And over the 4th of July, I put out an email to invite anybody who wants to come up to have a get-together, and we can go out and photograph during the day. Frankfurt, it's up near Frankfurt, it's by Crystal Mountain. They have a beautiful fireworks right on the beach. You can photograph the fireworks on the 4th of July, and you can come a couple days early, stay a couple days over. There's a lot of stuff to do in the area. So everybody's welcome, then we can get together in the evening and sit around the campfire and tell lies and
No,
sing
you tell
songs.
lies, I'm telling you.
Okay, great.
Wait a minute now.
Photograph.
What?
I want to say something else about this.
Okay.
I forgot. By the way, you're welcome to touch this. And, one thing. One time when I was photographing with this, Judy asked me a question. I was in the middle of what I was doing, so I didn't pay attention to what I was doing, rushing to help Judy. This camera fall and cracked right here, about 1.5 inches. The lens got in 2 pieces, but I had other lens, and this camera worked when it was broken. That's one thing. And you're welcome to, it's not that much of a thing I'm proud of here. You can look at it, see. By the way, one more thing, I almost forgot. I only use one lens. I am not like Terry, got 15,000 lenses in a little bag. This lens is all I use. It's 28 to 300. Every time I open my camera and put it back on, no matter how careful I am, there's some garbage goes in there. And then you see it forever unless you go and have it cleaned. Here, you guys pass it around. Don't throw it at anybody.
I forgot to say it's a free exercise now.
Okay, anyone else? Does anybody else have a phone or a phone? Okay, all right, it's my turn. I just want to share with you, there was some comment made by our earlier speaker who seemed to think you can only take pictures on iPhones, but it's a cell phone, okay? I'm not going to say Droid, I'm not going to say Android, and it doesn't even have to be a smartphone. I mean, a lot of old phones have cameras built into them, so let's be generic. And when we say iPad, I mean we're really talking tablet, okay? Tablets. All right, now, And yeah, this is my ace in the hole, and that's what I use. And it also fits in this pocket, to be continued. All right, this is what I've had. My nephew went from this on to, I think he's got a 7R now. But this was the last of the Konica Minoltas, which is really, it's a 7 megapixel. It's not a lot, but it does great. I love it. Wouldn't have been able to get any of the Sandhill cranes or anything without a decent lens. Well, I'm not saying this is a decent lens, but without a lens that's telephoto enough. But like Hossein says all the time, I hate changing lenses, and you get it dirty whenever you change lenses if you do it out in the field. And so I use this with limited success, but I use it only when I have to use it. But I do respect it's a decent SLR. So about 3 years ago, I went looking. I really wanted to take raw pictures. I wanted it to fit in my pocket. I liked the fact that I wanted to do bracketing, automatic bracketing, so I could pick so many half-f stop up or down and boom, 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 do 3 of them. And so I went, and as you spoke about the G15, yes, besides my pocket having this, it also has this.
Wow.
And this is the G11, okay? And so this is when Canon was on that number. You said it's 15, 16 now. But I love this. I love this camera. I really do. It's the only thing I don't like about it is that it only has a 5x zoom. I'm about 24, well, a little more, maybe 24 to 140, I think.
That would be the digital part. There is a difference. When it's an optical zoom, you're truly getting it done. The digital zoom is doing something with software to zoom.
I never count the digital. The optical zoom is 5:1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terry,
That's all made up, because you can do that with Photoshop.
That's right, that's right.
That's all made up crap.
In fact, that's something.
Yeah,
people
this
should
is the
know.
Canon G11. Now I think it's a G15 or 16.
Mark, that's something people should know about cell phones. I was at a workshop on that at Swimsea last fall, and they said, don't zoom with your cell if you don't have to. Do it on the software later on, because the sensors in them are pretty good in getting what you need. You can blow them up pretty well. But if you blow them up on your phone, they turn out crappy.
One other point you're talking about, many have a 4:3 format, a lot of point and shoots, and they have a panoramic. Okay, don't use the panoramic. If you got a panoramic,
It cuts it.
then throw this away. Do your own framing in Photoshop or whatever program. Pick what you want of that picture. Don't limit yourself. Get it all and then do what you can with it.
So what if you turned it
Stitch.
Yeah. Sorry?
vertically?
What if you did it vertically?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
You can stitch. Photos.
Yeah, I mean, we're not. I mean, the point is when you're shooting in the panoramic mode, you're throwing away information ahead of time. That's all. I mean, maybe you need to be over here a little bit more, and not a little bit more.
No, I wanted to say one more thing about the Micro Four Thirds and the APS-C sensor cameras. So Micro Four Thirds, like the Panasonic and the Olympus, or the other formats like the Fuji format or even the Sony format. And that is that. And I've really never seen much written about this, but they really have, those two sensors have different aspect ratios. Just like the difference between 4:5 film and 5:7 film. 5:7 isn't just larger, but it's a different aspect ratio. So the 4/3 sensor is more of a square image, and the APS-C is more of a rectangular image. And so in thinking about the kind of photography that I do, that's part of my consideration is what sort of aspect ratio do I want the images to have? If you remember back in the film days, the Hasselblad was a really unique format because it was square. you know, whereas other cameras were rectangular. And I think there's a similarity. You can see a little bit of it in the prints that I made back there. You can see that some of them have more border on the left and right sides. So that's the Olympus format, and some have less border, so that they're a little bit longer and it captures a little bit more. That's the Sony format. So here, for example, in this image, you know, here, like I captured this much more of the picture horizontally compared to that one, because the aspect ratio of the sensor is longer. You know what I mean? So it's more of a landscape format. So that might be a consideration as well.
I agree with you, and I'm really saddened by the fact that they've gone to this 4:3. It's like they're copying almost the point and shoot aspect ratio. Whereas your APS-C, if I'm not mistaken, is 3:2, which follows your regular full frame 35 millimeter. I personally view most of my stuff on video rather than printing, which is almost the opposite of what Hossein is saying, but that's just because I'm a video guy. And I like 9:16, and I want to use that whole 9:16, which is even greater than, even is more panoramic. But I'll go ahead and get what I want out of whatever I shoot.
Well, on this little camera, you can set what you want it to be. You can set it up for 4:6. 4:6, instead of the typical PowerShot cameras are 4.5:6. This one you can set it to any size you want. You can also look on, you know, any camera. There's the GPS designation now, so that when you go to print out your pictures, it'll with the software, it shows on a map exactly where the picture was taken if you're doing travel logs.
Just one other piece, again, back to our pocket camera that we have in our pocket all the time, are add-on lenses. You're not stuck with the lens that came with it. I've actually made my own macro lenses for my iPhone, and part of the reason I did because they just fit right over the case. For Christmas, my wife gave me an Oleo clip, which happens to have a wide-angle lens, a fisheye lens, and macro lenses. Basically, you screw off the outer part of each of those, and it gives you a macro capability. And this just slips right on over it. You can't do it with the case on. But you have that. They also have them that have a telephoto version that will give you, between, the ones I've seen are like twice the power or 4 times the power, so, you know, narrowing down your focal lengths. You have, you know, additional capability. Again, I have a little pocket in the sleeve of my coat, so I can carry this with me all the time, along with my phone that's always with me.
I think I gotta keep track of that, but
Yeah, exactly.
So who sells those? Where do you buy them?
Get them at the Apple Store.
Amazon.com, you can also get it at the Apple Store. I'm sure there are similar ones or whatever, but the thing is there are fewer models of iPhones, so you have, you know, plus that way the, you know, Droid type thing. But Google do-it-yourself macro lens, if you want a macro lens. Basically, you can take the lens from a disposable camera. I've used that to make a macro lens. I've got magnifying glasses and taken them apart and used lenses for creating macro lenses. So it's basically like that. You just have to figure out some way to mount it. And that's, you know, I've done it with bent up wire, coat hangers or different wires to bend into it.
So there's a student of mine at who she was a student at the Maine Media Workshops, and last year she decided that she was going to do a blog. She's going to create a blog. She lives in Maryland, and she's going to create a blog where she'd go on a walk every day with her camera and make pictures. And she was going to try to discover something new about her state every day, you know. So she did. Now, she knew that she wasn't going to walk around with her big camera every day. So she had a Nikon, I think it's a 7700. So similar to Mark's little Canon camera, you know. So camera like that, shoots raw files, you know, has advanced capabilities, you know. But yeah, so she carried that with her every single day. She made, you know, many photographs. She had this blog going. You know, she gets a lot of followers. She, you know, really put together some beautiful images. And it was terrific, and she said, because I was asking her what camera she's using, she goes, oh, I just have this Nikon pocket camera that I carry around. She goes, because anything else is just too much for me to carry when I go on these walks. And so then she told me, actually she was on another one of my workshops, and she had the camera, and she's like, I wore the camera out. And she goes, I actually, like, the thing just died, you know, I just like took so many, and she had bonded with this thing, you know, so she wrote a letter to Nikon, and she told them, you know, oh, I have this camera, I do this blog, here, look at my blog, you know, I love this camera, you know, and the poor thing just died. And Nikon sent her a new camera. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's a good thing.
Well, great. Anybody else have any comments?
I would like to see a program here where people bring in pictures they took with cell phones. And just do a show where people could upload them to your system here. And just see what all people have done with cell phones.
Well, maybe we can do that on a creative night or something. We'll have to see. Actually, here's the man in charge. I should keep my mouth. Okay, great hand. Thank everybody, and especially Terry. Without Terry, we're nowhere. I mean, next month, we've got Terry bring in the 3 students that are gonna knock our socks off, so remember, don't bother bringing them. And, socks.
For people who came in late.
Yes. And if you only got one, there's two additions.
And some paper products.